This is not in your history books. What if I told you the most powerful men in American history had secrets so bizarre, you'd never see them the same way again? From a president who kept a bullet in his chest, to another who named his genitals. These aren't rumors, they're documented facts. Because behind every polished portrait is a very strange man. This is the real history of America's presidents, told through the one weird fact that defines each of them. Let's begin. Behind every president, a strange truth. Presidents are often remembered for wars, speeches, and laws, but there's another story, a weirder one, hiding behind the flags and fireworks. From bizarre habits and private scandals to freak accidents and strange obsessions, the Oval Office has seen it all. And while some facts will make you laugh, others will make you uncomfortable, but together, they reveal one undeniable truth. Power doesn't make you normal, so buckle up. This isn't about left or right. This is about weird. Number 1. George Washington. He's called the father of the United States, but George Washington never had children of his own. Despite being married to Martha Custis, he raised her children from a previous marriage, but biologically, nothing. Historians point to a possible illness he suffered as a young man, which may have caused infertility. Still, the symbolism remains, a man who helped birth a nation, yet never left behind his own bloodline. Number 2. John Adams. Before he became president, John Adams did something most Americans today would find unthinkable. He defended British soldiers in court after they fired on a crowd of colonists in what became the Boston Massacre. Not only did he defend them, he got them acquitted. Adams believed in justice above all, even if it meant standing up for the enemy. That single act defined his legacy as a man of law before politics. Number 3. Thomas Jefferson. It's well known that Thomas Jefferson had a long-term relationship with his enslaved mistress, Sally Hemings. What's less known is that Sally and Jefferson's wife, Martha, were likely half-sisters. That's because Sally's mother was impregnated by Martha's father, John Wales, a white slaveholder, so Jefferson's wife and his enslaved mistress were family. One was buried in the family plot, the other in silence. That is America's contradiction, written in blood. Number 4. James Madison. Standing at just 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighing barely 100 pounds, James Madison was America's smallest president, physically, yet he played a massive role in shaping the Constitution. And here's the weird part. His face ended up on one of the biggest pieces of American currency ever printed, the $5,000 bill. Only used for interbank transfers and long discontinued, it's a piece of money you'll probably never see, but it bore the face of the tiniest president. Number 5. James Monroe. He's most famous for the Monroe Doctrine, but you've probably seen James Monroe's face in another place and didn't know it. That dramatic painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, a youthful soldier holding the American flag proudly in the boat, that's Monroe, or so it's claimed. But many historians say Monroe wasn't there at all. His inclusion is symbolic, a reminder that sometimes, even in history, we rewrite the story to fit the myth. Number 6. John Quincy Adams. Imagine losing the popular vote and the Electoral College, yet still becoming president. That's exactly what happened with John Quincy Adams in 1824. Thanks to what's been dubbed the corrupt bargain, the House of Representatives chose Adams after no one won a majority. His opponent, Andrew Jackson, never forgave him, and the American people were left questioning the legitimacy of their system. It was the first time in U.S. history that democracy felt rigged. Number 7. Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was a man of violence and pride. In 1806, he challenged Charles Dickinson to a duel after Dickinson insulted Jackson's wife. Dickinson fired first, hitting Jackson square in the chest, but Jackson didn't flinch. He raised his pistol, took aim, and killed Dickinson on the spot, calmly walking away as blood poured into his shirt. Jackson carried that bullet, and another from a different duel, for the rest of his life. He wasn't just a president, he was a walking scar. Number 8. Martin Van Buren. His presidency may be forgotten by most Americans, but pop culture never forgets. Martin Van Buren became the unexpected inspiration for a street gang in the sitcom Seinfeld, the Van Buren Boys. It was a joke, sure, but it cemented Van Buren's name for an entirely new generation. Who knew that the 8th president of the United States would find immortality in a comedy show 150 years later? Number 9. William Henry Harrison. He delivered the longest inaugural address in history, nearly 2 hours, in freezing rain, without a coat. Just 31 days later, he was dead. Some say it was pneumonia, others whisper of a Native American curse placed upon him after a violent military betrayal. Whatever the truth, Harrison holds the shortest presidency in U.S. history. A long speech, a short term, a legacy sealed by silence. Number 10. John Tyler, born in 1790. That seems ancient until you realize this. As of right now, 2 of John Tyler's grandsons are still alive. That's right, not great-grandsons, grandsons. How? Tyler had a son late in life. That son also had children very late. 2 living links between today's world and the 18th century. When we say history is closer than you think, this is what we mean. Number 11. James K. Polk. He was the only president to achieve everything he promised during his campaign and then stepped away. Polk didn't seek re-election in 1848. Instead, he retired, but within 3 months he was dead, struck by cholera. The presidency burned bright and fast for Polk, and in the end may have burned him out entirely. Number 12. Zachary Taylor. Taylor was a war hero, rough and rugged, but his death was strangely undignified. After attending a 4th of July celebration in 1850, he feasted on cherries and iced milk. 5 days later, he was dead. While officially ruled gastroenteritis, rumors of poisoning swirled, even leading to a body exhumation over a century later. No proof was found, but suspicion remains. Number 13. Millard Fillmore. Millard Fillmore may not be a household name, but here's something you probably didn't expect. He once fought to save the Library of Congress from burning. During a fire in 1851, Fillmore helped form a bucket brigade, meet and joined firefighters in person. It's rare for a president to run toward danger, but that night Fillmore did. Number 14. Franklin Pierce. He's often rated one of America's worst presidents, but also, oddly enough, one of its most attractive. Franklin Pierce had deep blue eyes, wavy hair, and a chiseled jaw. He looked like a movie star, but behind the looks was tragedy. He lost all 3 of his children, one in a horrific train accident right before his inauguration, and he drank heavily throughout his term. Beauty, it seems, does not shield you from heartbreak. Number 15. James Buchanan. He's the only bachelor president in U.S. history, never married. But what has intrigued historians for decades is his deep relationship with William Rufus King, a fellow politician. The two lived together for years, exchanged intimate letters, and were even referred to as Miss Nancy and Aunt Fancy by colleagues. We can't know the full truth, but James Buchanan may have been America's first gay president, hidden in plain sight. Number 16. Abraham Lincoln. We know Lincoln for the Gettysburg Address, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the top hat. But here's something you didn't expect. He loved oysters. He ate them regularly and served them at state dinners. It may seem trivial, but in a presidency defined by civil war and sorrow, it's comforting to know even Lincoln had his favorite food. Number 17. Andrew Johnson. Born in poverty, orphaned young, and apprenticed to a tailor, Andrew Johnson never attended school. He learned to read and write as a teenager, taught by his wife. Later, he'd become mayor, senator, vice president, and after Lincoln's death, president. His rise was unlikely, but maybe that's what made it possible. Nothing about Andrew Johnson was typical. Number 18. Ulysses S. Grant. He was meant to be at Ford's Theater the night Lincoln was assassinated, but his wife, Julia, couldn't stand Mary Todd Lincoln and insisted they leave Washington, so Grant dodged the bullet, quite literally. It was a decision made for personal comfort that may have saved his life. Number 19. Rutherford B. Hayes. Hayes didn't just win the presidency through the most disputed election in U.S. history, he also made pet history. He owned the first Siamese cat in the United States, a gift from a U.S. diplomat in Thailand. The cat's name? Siam. It lived at the White House, becoming an exotic symbol of the new Gilded Age. Even in presidential history, sometimes the smallest facts purr the loudest. Number 20. James A. Garfield. Shot by a disgruntled office seeker just months into his presidency, James Garfield lay dying, and science rushed to help. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, built a custom metal detector to find the bullet lodged inside him, but it failed because Garfield was lying on a metal bed frame. Doctors probed blindly, worsening his infection. In the end, it wasn't the assassin's bullet that killed him, but medical incompetence. Number 21. Chester A. Arthur. He had the most elegant mutton chops of any president, but that's not the weirdest thing about him. Arthur had an unusual way of saying his name. He pronounced his middle name Allen, with the stress on the second syllable. That's not all. He secretly redecorated the entire White House after moving in, getting rid of 24 wagon loads of furniture and antiques. Why? He thought the place looked common. Arthur may be forgotten, but he had presidential style. Number 22. Grover Cleveland. He's the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, number 22 and number 24. But during his first term, Cleveland secretly disappeared from the public eye for 5 days. Why? To undergo a risky surgery to remove a cancerous tumor on a yacht. The procedure was hidden from the public to avoid panic during an economic crisis. The press didn't find out for years. Imagine a president vanishing for surgery today and no one knowing. Number 23. Benjamin Harrison. Standing at just 5'6", Benjamin Harrison was often overshadowed, even by his own grandfather, William Henry Harrison, but he holds a quiet distinction. He was the last president to sport a full beard. His White House was also the first to be fully electrified. Though he and his wife were so afraid of being electrocuted, they refused to touch the light switches. Sometimes a flick of the finger felt like too much power. Number 24. William McKinley. McKinley was a calm, careful president who favored red carnations as a lucky charm, always wearing one on his lapel. But here's the odd twist. The day he was assassinated in 1901, he gave that flower to a young girl in the crowd. Moments later, he was shot. Some say it was coincidence, others call it a premonition. But from that day forward, the red carnation became a symbol of fallen power. Number 25. Theodore Roosevelt. Few men lived like Teddy Roosevelt. Rough Rider, trust buster, big game hunters, and bullet survivor. In 1912, while campaigning for a third term, Roosevelt was shot in the chest by a would-be assassin. But the bullet had to pass through his steel glasses case in a thick folded speech, slowing it down. He stood up, blood soaking his shirt, and told the crowd, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." Then he delivered the entire 90-minute speech before going to the hospital. Legend? No, that's just Teddy. Number 26. William Howard Taft. He's forever linked to the bathtub rumor, but that story? Probably exaggerated. What is true? After his presidency, Taft became Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, the only man to ever lead both the executive and judicial branches. He actually preferred the court, calling it his true calling. So while others chased power, Taft chased balance, and finally found peace behind the bench, not the desk. Number 27. Woodrow Wilson. During World War I, Wilson tried to present a frugal image, so he replaced White House groundskeepers with sheep. A full flock grazed the White House lawn, reducing costs and raising money for the Red Cross by auctioning off the wool. It wasn't just symbolic and what, it was practical. But for 2 years, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue was more pasture than palace. Number 28. Warren G. Harding. His presidency was riddled with scandal, but his personal life was even more shocking. In love letters uncovered in 2014, Harding referred to his penis as Jerry and described his longing in poetry, poorly written poetry. He even wrote about sneaking away for affairs in White House closets. Forget Teapot Dome. Harding's most outrageous oil spill was his pen. Number 29. Calvin Coolidge, Silent Cal, the man who said less and meant even less. At a dinner party, a woman bet him she could get him to say more than 3 words. After a long, quiet meal, Coolidge turned to her and simply said, "You lose." That was his presidency in a nutshell. Reserved, restrained, and enigmatic. Number 30. Herbert Hoover. Before leading during the Great Depression, Hoover had already made a name for himself in Mandarin. As a young engineer, he worked in China and became fluent in the language. He and his wife would speak it in the White House to keep conversations private, even around staff. It's one of the few times a president's secret language wasn't just political spin. Number 31. Franklin D. Roosevelt. He led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, but also broke family norms. FDR married Eleanor Roosevelt, his 5th cousin, once removed. Even more awkward, she was the niece of his uncle, Teddy, as in President Theodore Roosevelt. At their wedding, it was Uncle Teddy who gave the bride away. In American politics, the family tree sometimes loops in on itself. Number 32. Harry S. Truman. The S in Harry S. Truman. It stands for absolutely nothing. His parents couldn't decide whether to honor his grandfather's, Ship or Solomon, so they settled on a single ambiguous initial, and yet that meaningless S would be printed on treaties, nuclear orders, and history itself. Sometimes empty letters carry heavy weight. Number 33. Dwight D. Eisenhower. As a former general, Eisenhower ran a tight ship, but there was one threat he refused to tolerate on the White House lawn: squirrels. They kept digging up his carefully maintained putting green, so he ordered the Secret Service to trap them and release them in Rock Creek Park. Yes, the man who led D-Day had a personal war with squirrels. Number 34. John F. Kennedy. He was young, charismatic, and full of secrets. But did you know JFK reportedly read 200 words per minute? That's 4 times the average adult reading speed. Some say it was a myth, a bit of campaign-era exaggeration, but those close to him swore by his photographic memory and lightning-fast mind. Between missile crises and moon missions, maybe speed reading wasn't his only superpower, but it was certainly one of the most charming. Number 35. Lyndon B. Johnson. Before he became the towering figure of civil rights legislation, Lyndon Johnson scrubbed toilets, literally. As a young man during the Great Depression, he worked as a teacher at a rural school, and also as its janitor. He swept the floors after class, fixed broken windows, and cleaned the bathrooms to make ends meet. When he later signed the Civil Rights Act, many said he never forgot what poverty smelled like. Number 36. Richard Nixon. A devout Quaker known for being stiff and awkward in public, Nixon had a darker, stranger obsession: recording everything. He bugged his own White House, capturing conversations, deals, insults, paranoia, all of it. But here's the kicker. He also recorded himself, often talking alone. That web of surveillance would eventually strangle his presidency during Watergate. He's the only U.S. president to resign, and probably the only one who taped his own downfall. Number 37. Gerald Ford. Often mocked for being clumsy, he once tumbled down Air Force One stairs. Gerald Ford had a secret modeling past. Before politics, he was featured in Cosmopolitan magazine with his future wife Betty. They modeled swimsuits and domestic bliss. America's 38th president, once a catalog heartthrob. Clumsy? Maybe, but never out of frame. Number 38. Jimmy Carter. He built homes for the poor and brokered peace in the Middle East. But in 1969, Jimmy Carter reported something else: a UFO. He was in Leary, Georgia, when he and about 10 others saw a bright, unexplained object in the EU sky. He filed a formal report with the International UFO Bureau. Years later, he said, "If I become president, I'll make all the UFO information public." He did become president. The files, still classified. Number 39. Ronald Reagan. Before the White House, Ronald Reagan shared the screen with a chimp. In the 1951 comedy Bedtime for Bonzo, Reagan played a psychology professor raising a chimpanzee as his child. During filming, the chimp reportedly attacked him, nearly strangling the future president. So yes, before Cold War summits and economic reform, Reagan was almost taken out by a monkey. Number 40. George H.W. Bush. At age 85, former President Bush jumped out of a plane, not in his youth, in 2009. He'd promised years earlier that if he made it to 85 in good health, he'd go skydiving again. Strapped to a Navy SEAL, he kept that promise, soaring through the sky above Maine. Even after leaving office, Bush 41 lived like he still had something to prove. Number 41. Bill Clinton. Love him or hate him, Bill Clinton had pop culture appeal. In 2012, while appearing on NPR's Wait, Don't Tell Me, he correctly answered 3 trivia questions about My Little Pony. Friendship is magic. Yes, that My Little Pony. He even knew about Rainbow Dash, the 42nd President of the United States, a certified brony. Number 42. George W. Bush. Before 9/11 and the Iraq War, George W. Bush was co-owner of the Texas Rangers baseball team, and during his tenure, he made one of the worst trades in sports history. He approved the deal that sent slugger Sammy Sosa away, long before Sosa became a home run legend. Sometimes power swings, and sometimes it strikes out. Number 43. Barack Obama. He played basketball, read Marvel comics, and made history. But one of his strangest gifts? In 2011, soccer legend David Beckham visited the White House and gave Obama 50 pairs of boxer briefs, custom-made, designer underwear. The president laughed and kept them. Power wears many things. In Obama's case, maybe Calvin Klein. Number 44. Donald J. Trump. Much has been said about Trump, the tweets, the rallies, the golden escalators, but here's one strange detail. He may suffer from bathmophobia, an irrational fear of stairs and slopes. Watch his public appearances closely. He often grips railings, hesitates on ramps, or avoids uneven ground. It's never been confirmed officially, but the man who built towers may fear walking down them. Number 45. Joe Biden. Long before becoming president, Joe Biden faced death twice. In the late 1980s, he underwent 2 major brain surgeries to repair life-threatening aneurysms. The odds were stacked against him, but he survived, recovered, and returned to public life stronger. He later joked that he's a walking miracle, and considering what he went on to accomplish, maybe he's right. Stranger than fiction, tell us your favorite. From duels and UFOs to pet parrots and bullet wounds, the story of American presidents is far weirder and far more human than most people realize. They weren't just leaders. They were men with fears, flaws, obsessions, and strange little legacies that history almost forgot. So now we ask you, which president had the weirdest fact? Which one surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments. And if this video shocked, entertained, or enlightened you, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell, because the truth is never boring.